umpires, weather, injuries, our teammates making errors, jealous teammates, all those things we can't control, but we can help ourselves react better to them. As elite athletes, if we can slow down the game, we are going to be more successful. Welcome to the Weekly Dose. I'm Jamie Southern, and this week we have a special treat for y'all. We are going to be talking about visualization and breath work. And you're probably thinking, well, this isn't really going with non-controllables this month, but it does, right? There are plenty of things that we cannot control. We talked about umpires, weather, injuries, our teammates making errors, jealous teammates, all those things we can't control, but we can help ourselves react better to them, right? We can control our thoughts. We can control our heartbeat when we get a little anxious or we get a little nervous or we get mad because they're not giving us that strike. So I'm going to talk shortly about visualization and kind of tell a story of how I grew up with it. And then my husband's going to be coming on with one of our dearest friends who was a former Navy SEAL. And he's going to teach us and share with him how he used breath work to calm yourselves down in those situations where we feel a little rushed, we feel a little, anxiety and just those pressure situations. So I grew up and my dad, middle school, high school, would always stress about visualization. And I remember one time being in the car driving, I'm sure to practice where we were talking about it, and thinking like, cool dad, visualization, cool, I'm just watching myself practice, I'm watching myself pitch or swing at a ball, or it just didn't make sense to me. It seemed almost silly to do that. But he still talked about it and he still got it on my mind. He made me think about it. So that was kind of like the foundation that I had. My dad says that visualization is so important, but I'm not bought in yet. Then, remember back in the day, Chicken Soup for the Soul books? Well, I was a reader of them. I loved them. And I remember reading one short story about this golfer who got put in jail, and for 72 days that he was in jail or something, he would look outside his window and look at the weather, and he would play a round of golf in his head with the conditions that were outside. And when he got out of jail, he shot better than before he went into jail. So I'm like, okay, I have my foundation. Visualization is important. Now I see another example of it being applied. And I'm thinking, okay, still haven't really bought in, but I'm starting to think oh, this really must be a thing. And maybe my dad does know what he's talking about. And so then it wasn't until I got to college that I really used it and applied everything that had come. My college coach, she was a pitcher, and she would always tell us in practice, when you're throwing your rise ball or when you're throwing your curveball, whatever pitch it is, before you pitch it, visualize that ball rising and them swinging right underneath the ball. So I'm like, oh, this makes a little bit more sense to me, right? It's just like a 2-second visualization. I'm just seeing that ball go. I'm looking at my target because my catcher's sitting there. I'm seeing where I'm starting my pitch. I see where I want it to end up. And then I'm visualizing her being unsuccessful with it. Well, that really clicked. Probably too because my brain was a little bit older. I could understand. I was now applying, and it was more intense situations, right? There's bigger consequences here on this bigger stage for me. So I would do that. I found so much success in it. It actually almost taking that second before my pitch, I would kind of just calm down a little bit too, right? I'm thinking about the success instead of, oh my gosh, this batter's so good. If this ball doesn't rise, right? Pitchers know, we always think about it like, oh, this could go over the fence. Like, I've got to get this up. And then we just throw a high rise ball, like just a high pitch, right? So if you struggle with a certain pitch, or maybe you have a certain pitch that gives you a little bit more anxiety or fear kind of likes to creep in, it would be very beneficial for you to visualize you being successful with it. Another thing pitching wise that I would always do, and I tell my pitchers even to this day, is to see two spots, right? I want to see the spot. I'm looking at the spot that I want to start my curveball, and I'm seeing where I want it to end up, right? That's visualizing. I'm seeing two spots. I'm telling my brain what I want that ball to do. Very helpful for me, right? It's controlling our thoughts, controlling our mind right before we go to battle with that pitch. Okay? So, simple, yet super effective. So, these are the things that we talk about that make us a good pitcher go to a great pitcher, right? We're not robotic. We're not just throwing my rise ball and I throw it right here because that's where I throw my rise ball, right? The batter might be shorter and I'm seeing a different target and I'm trying to throw it differently. I see my curveball in two spots. This girl is standing normal in the box. This one, her toes are on the line. I got to start it a little bit more. We cannot be robotic. And so taking that time to visualize is so important. My dad's probably like, oh yeah, watching this video right now being like, oh, I told you so, right? But it took some time to understand, and I tried. I would lay in bed the night before a championship game and like try to visualize like me being successful and striking out players and all that jazz. But I didn't have a lot of I couldn't do it for so long. Right? Like just like laying there thinking and like playing the game in my head. Like I can't go there. It was just too much for me. But the 1-2 second visualizations before my pitch, that was easier for me. So that's a place that if you find that you struggle with me thinking about it a lot, or it would honestly, a night before a game, it would give me more anxiety thinking about certain things. So right before the pitches, I totally recommend to even just start with that so that you can buy in to this whole visualization talk. Okay, so now we are going to go into breath work. And remember, like this is some like awesome information. I mean, this is what the best of the best for our country are taught and learn and do. So remember, as elite athletes, if we can slow down the game, we are going to be more successful. If you have two different athletes and one has so much anxiety, they're nervous, they're fearful, there's the tying run on second, they're the batter and there's 2 outs and like they have to get, that's anxiety, that's pressure. That is a feeling that is not normally played with, right? Only in these key situations. So if we can learn to control it and slow down the game and be calm, then we're going to be more successful. So I am going to take it over to my husband and you guys enjoy the interview. Look out for the workout of the week tomorrow, okay? It's going to have something to do with visualization. All right, guys, see you later.
All right, guys, welcome to a special episode of the Weekly Dose. I'm going to introduce myself first. My name is Greg. Y'all have heard from Jamie for all these weeks, and she is the talent, and I'm the schmo behind the scenes that tries to make sure she's on camera and gets the computer turned on. Jamie is an unbelievable pitcher, a better coach, a great mother, but a terrible worker of technology. So that's the role that I feel mostly. So I was going to handle this one not only for that, but also because we are talking about visualization and breathwork this week. And I am a huge proponent and believer in breathwork, mostly because of the guy that I'm going to introduce next. I'm going to introduce you to PJ Ramsey, who also happens to be the godfather to our oldest daughter. And he was one of the first guys I met when I got into the Navy. He'd been into the Navy a bit, but I'm going to kick it over to PJ and kind of let him introduce himself before we go into breathwork. So with that, PJ.
Hey, thanks. Greg. Like Greg said, my name's PJ. We met in the Navy. I retired in 2018 after 15 years in, and most of that time was spent in naval special warfare. And I actually was introduced to breathwork probably around 2000, 2001 before I joined the Navy, and then heavily got into it in 2006 when I moved out to San Diego and started getting into yoga and learning about meditation, and really started to understand how beneficial breathwork is and how much it can calm you down. And I was looking to get into some pretty intense training and stuff, so I just followed through with it. So yeah, I got into the breathwork and decided to take it with me into the training and stuff that I went on to and throughout my career, and I'd like to pass it back on down to some athletes.
So what PJ's not going to tell you is, so we met in preparation to go to BUDS, which is SEAL training. And you can probably tell PJ made it through. I did not, but it was in that training in preparation. I think maybe it was pool exercises or something, drown proofing maybe, where this old Master Chief came in and said, all right, we're going to work on some breath stuff. And it was like, I mean, you wanted to do it right because you wanted to take a break. You got tired of getting beat all the time. But PJ was able to not only use that breath work in training, but was able to use breath work in situations, maybe in advanced training, or even in situations where literally his life depended on it. So PJ, if you want to share maybe a couple of stories about how you would use breath work and maybe some of the practical applications that you used it for, and then we can talk about how athletes can train to incorporate that breath work into their day-to-day.
And so primarily when I started using it was just what you said, Greg, in the pool, doing the pool evolutions. And it was a way to kind of calm myself down and get present into what I was doing, which was, holding your breath and all that in the water, and realized how beneficial it was there. So I carried it over into some more intense training, some live fire training in the kill house and whatnot. And I was able to keep my heart rate down and stay present and stuff before going into a kill house, and I did it all with box breathing and sealing the lips, really. Just breathing through the nose.
So PJ, when you say box breathing, what exactly is box breathing?
The easiest way to put it is if you just picture a box right in front of you and you walk up one side of the box, count to 4, turn right, hold your breath for 4. As you're going up, you're inhaling, go right, you're holding for 4. And when you come back down, you're exhaling for 4, and then holding again for 4, and then back up.
Is there any special way that you're supposed to be breathing? Do I just breathe normal?
I like to take a big breath in when I start feeling that anxiety and stuff creeping in, or start getting nervous about something. And I'll take a big inhale through the nose, filling up the lungs as much as I can, and empty it all out through the mouth. And then I'll seal the lips from there and just be breathing through the nostrils.
So no breathing out of the mouth?
I do not, no.
Your breath is always there, but we don't use it. It's not something that is kind of second nature. So is this something that was easy for you to pick up? Was it something that was intuitive to where you just knew that you needed to do it? Like, how did you understand that this is something that you can incorporate in your life? Was it something that you had to train to do, or somebody tells you how to do it, you do it, and you're good?
It's definitely practice. So you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's the most readily available, but it's probably one of the harder things to do and actually focus on and do properly. When I first got into it, my breath work was very shallow. My breathing was shallow. Proper breathing, big inhale, big exhale, and breathing through your diaphragm.
Okay, so this is, it's not just for Navy SEALs. So parents, we talk about breath work as if it's something that's reserved exclusively for Navy SEALs or elite athletes, but anyone in any situation where maybe your daughter's about to pitch a big game and she's nervous, right? It's a championship game in a tournament, or maybe it's during the game, she's on the mound and there's 2 outs, bases loaded, and that big hitter comes to the plate. This, once you practice, is an exercise where within a couple of breaths, you can lower your heart rate. You can kind of turn off the fight or flight response. And we'll put show notes if you want to dig into the science of what breath work is, how it works, how it affects your parasympathetic nervous systems. We'll put those notes down in the show notes. But basically, so a pitcher could use these tools either in the dugout before the game or on the mound to lower their heart rate and kind of reset themselves. And so, PJ, a question for you. Jamie asked me, well, I want to feel in control and I want to feel engaged. I don't want to chill myself out. And I think maybe there's a misconception that this breath work just chills you out to the point that maybe you're not in peak performance. PJ, does the breath work affect you to the point that it takes you out of peak performance?
Right. So, no, I don't believe it takes you out of peak performance. Actually, I think it'll increase your performance level. It's not going to relax you to the point where you're ready to take a nap or anything. It's going to make you very present, very focused on what you're doing. And when the coach actually talks to you a little bit about visualization, and you pair it with the breath work. So you can do the breath work while you're doing the visualization of, going through the mechanics, the fundamentals of the pitch and all that when you're up on the mound, or up or down in the dugout. And I think what it'll do is bring you to a very present state and shut out all the distractions going on and focus on the pitch.
Yeah. So that, you guys, I think would call it single sight focus, right? Or front sight focus, where it's just what's in front of you. Yeah. What's in front of you? How do you execute? Jamie's going to talk about visualization, but, I would love to get your thoughts. There was a clip that I heard where Tiger Woods was talking to another golfer, and this other golfer was going on and about how they visualize, and they make every putt, and they're in the fairway, and they're hitting the greens. And Tiger's point was great. That's great, but visualize yourself going through some adversity. And I'm just wondering, in your visualization practice, would you account for all scenarios? Was it only executing on the best, or did you say, what, I'm going to visualize when this happens, I'm going to do this, and then once you got into that situation, maybe it was easier to overcome?
I tried that a little bit, and what I ended up doing was more focused on what can go right and all that. Through training and all that, you go through the fundamentals of practice and what's going to go wrong, and you already have that checklist. It becomes muscle memory. So instead of thinking in my head and trying to create more anxiety on what can go wrong and what I'm going to do when it goes wrong, I try to tell myself what's going to go right and go from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay, so back to, you don't have to be a Navy SEAL. Our 6-year-old daughter has pajama day at school today. Last night she realized her pajamas got left at her grandparents' house, so she doesn't have the tie-dye pajamas that she needed or wanted. And she just broke out into tears, and there was obviously other stuff going on, but she was almost inconsolable. And so what we did was we just set her down and said, okay, JC, I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose, and I want you to hold it, and then I want you to breathe out through your mouth. And we did that 2 or 3 times, and it didn't, it's the first time she's ever done it, so it wasn't like it just changed her outlook. But what it did was, I think it allowed her to understand, like, okay, I've got control ultimately when I feel out of control, when I feel like either my emotions or my thoughts are running to the point where I'm out of control. This is a way to bring herself back to the point that she can at least reintroduce reason into the equation and start to think intelligently, kind of getting her out of her monkey mind into, her lizard brain back into, okay, now maybe this is what I should do. So JC was able to then think, okay, I've got control over this. This breathing allows her to get back, bring her mind back into her body and say, here's the next steps. So, PJ, if you're a softball dad or a softball mom and you're starting this training with your daughter at home, what are a few steps or maybe a progression that you could take them through from introduction to the point that maybe they're ready to take it to practice or maybe even into a game?
Really quick, I want to touch on JC's story. What you did essentially is you brought her back down to the present moment, right? She was having a meltdown from what it sounds like, and once she got in tune with her breath, I'm sure it was shallow breathing, and she was probably emotional. Once she got in tune with her breath, she was present and able to talk to you and realize the world wasn't ending. And if a 6-year-old can do it, so can an 18, so can a 20, a 35-year-old, a 70-year-old. I would start basic and just do, like I said before, is Right when you get ready to start, you take the big inhale in through your nose, hold it, and then blow it all out through your mouth, and then you seal your lips, and then we can do a quick box breathing drill. I'll show you 2 different ones, and then I'll touch a little bit on extending the exhale. Like if you do 4 seconds for the inhale, 4 seconds hold, you can extend the exhale to 6 seconds, and it'll stimulate the vagus nerve a little bit. You guys can touch base. You can touch on that a little bit more in the notes or however you want to do that. But let's just start a quick practical of it.
Yeah, let's go.
So you just, if you're sitting down, just sit, keep your legs on cross, hanging there, chest up, and you'll just take a big inhale in through your nose. You hold it, exhale it all out of your mouth. Empty your belly, empty your lungs, everything. Now once you're ready, seal your lips, and I'll do the count with my hand. And once you see me count, we'll start your inhale. Hold. Blow it out. So visualize yourself making the other turn of the box. Hold. Inhale back in for 4. Hold. Exhale for 4. How do you feel from there?
Every time I do it, I think, dang, why don't I do this more? Because I feel great. You know, I feel every time it feels, okay, I'm back. It's almost like a reset, right?
Absolutely.
So if they get started there, is that enough to, do they practice that, daily? How quickly should somebody build up from there, do you think? Knowing
I practice it daily. I mean, especially if you're attending school right now and all that. I mean, just walking through the halls. I mean, anytime you can. I mean, you walk the monkey mind. I mean, you can do it 5 minutes,
So what does that mean? Does that mean literally get up and walk around?
That's what I'll do. Sometimes I just can't focus on my breath work. If it's something really nerve-wracking or I'm under some pressure, and I can't just sit still because I can't get out of my own mind, I'll get up, and what my own coach called it is she calls it walking the monkey mind. So instead of sitting there doing that breath work, I'll get up and just start walking, whether it's walking the dog or walking to the mailbox. Any opportunity I get to practice it, I will throughout the day.
So they don't have to be seated. They don't have to be in a dugout or on the bleachers. I mean, it can be done anywhere.
Sure, they can do it right on the mound.
So parents, your daughters are in practice and things aren't going well, or they're in a game and the umpire's strike zone is just tiny and they're not giving her anything, or maybe teammates behind her are making errors. What does the breath work do for her in those moments, PJ?
What it'll do is it'll block out what I call the chatter or white noise going on. A lot of the things you mentioned are uncontrollable by the pitcher herself, right? So for starters, it might be a good idea to identify what is not controllable by her. Other teammates messing up, that's out of her control. The umpire, all that. So once you block that out and realize you can only be in control of yourself and start getting into your breath work, the rest is all just white noise going on.
And when somebody gets proficient, is it as simple as 1 or 2 breaths? Because what I want to get out of is thinking, well, it's not applicable to games because I'm out, I'm pitching, I'm in the middle of this situation. But is it as simple as once you've developed the ability that it only takes a breath or 2 to get there?
Sure, you can calm yourself down, I'd say, within a breath or 2 of it. And the great thing about it is we don't think when we're breathing, right? We just naturally do it. But when you start thinking about it and focusing on your breath work, all the other stuff goes away.
Parents, I know that you don't need another thing on your plate, but I'm begging you, dig into the breath work a little bit. I mean, as PJ said, is the most available tool that we have, but it is such a game changer. It is a difference maker. So I am pumped that my first time with you guys, I get to spend with one of my best friends, and want to give PJ just a little bit of time to kind of talk about anything else that he has going on. PJ, I don't know if there's anything going on that you want to bring up, any resources that you want to highlight, but the floor is all yours, amigo.
Yeah, so right now I'm currently training for the Boston Frogman, which is a 5K open water swim in the Boston Harbor in support of the Navy SEAL Foundation. And the Frogman swim is a series that tries to build national awareness in the naval special warfare community. So what it is the swim presents a challenging endeavor to provide a small reminder of the hardships endured by our elite silent warriors while encouraging others to support and donate to the cause. The Navy SEAL Foundation has, they personally helped me out in the past when I was struggling with transition out of the Navy, and had some surgeries done at the time where they stepped in and helped with some different post-treatments I needed and help I needed. And what they also do is take care of Gold Star families and kids. And the swim also is to raise money for SEALs that have lost their life to suicide in the past as well. And that one hits close to home for me. So when I learned about it, I just thought it'd be a great way to be able to give back, and something challenging for me as well to train for.
So if people want to know more, we'll put the link to your swim and also to the Navy SEAL Foundation in the comments. If they want to get in touch with you or follow what's going on, are you doing any of this stuff on social?
Yeah, so me and my swim buddy, her name's Ash, we're on Facebook and Instagram right now promoting the swim and fundraiser. And we're also going to do press release as well as some flyers passing out to some businesses. But you can find me at PRams13 on Instagram or PJ Ramsey on Facebook to follow along and give us some encouragement for the swim.
All right, when's the date again?
June 12th.
In Boston.
Yes, sir.
Parents, if you want to support the Navy SEAL Foundation, if you want to support PJ directly, those links will be down in the comments below. But brother, appreciate you coming on. Love you. Thank you for the time and the expertise.
Thanks, Greg. Love you too, buddy.